Hi everyone, good day. I am here right now to discuss my report and section 1. My report is all about customs of the Tagalogs, Juan de Plasencia. This section shows the different practices and customs noted down by Fray Juan de Plasencia in his account. Customs of the Tagalogs. Tagalogs had been long practicing this even prior to the arrival of the Spaniards. Such practices this only proves that Filipino already lived with political, economics, and cultural systems prior to the Spanish colonization of the Philippines. Juan de Plasencia was a Spanish friar of the Franciscan order. He was among the first group of Franciscan missionaries who arrived in the islands on July 2, 1578. He spent most of his missionary life in the Philippines, where he founded numerous towns in Luzon and authored several religious and linguistic books, most notably the Doctrina Christiana, Christian Doctrine, the first book ever printed in the Philippines. Juan de Plasencia was born in the early 16th century as Juan Portocarrero in Plasencia, in the region of Extremadura, Spain. He was one of the 7 children of Pedro Portocarrero, a captain of Spanish schooner. Juan de Plasencia grew up during the period known as the Siglo de Oro, a golden age when arts and literature flourished in many parts of Spain, among them his native Extremadura. It is not well known when or where he first entered the order of the Franciscans. Some scholars point at the Convento de Villanueva de la Serena in Plasencia, while others speculate that he might have traveled to Italy and joined a convent there. At a time when a large part of Italy was under Spanish rule, according to researchers, he took the habit as a young man at the cloister of St. Francis in Sorrento, Italy. Juan de Plasencia died in Lirio, Laguna in 1590.
Section 2. Raiders of the Sulusi documentary film. A historical documentary Raiders of the Sulusi is produced by Oak Tree Film Production. Oak Tree Films was established in 1996, founded by Zahirat Banu Kudeli, along with Lim Swat Yen and Jason Lai. The documentary was the product of a co-production agreement between the Media Authority of Singapore and the Korean Broadcasting Commission in 2007 for Q Channel Korea. It was distributed internationally by Looking Glass International through Discovery Channel and History Channel for Asia in 2008. It was directed by Mr. Izwan Othman. Running time is 48 minutes and 43 seconds. The documentary were Isel B. Gloria Estrada, historian, a direct descendant of Vicente Alvarez, one of Zamboanga City's premier artists, painter, and sculptor, writes a weekly arts column and does extensive research in the arts and culture of Zamboanga. Dr. Samuel Kongtan, historian in National Historical Institute, former chairman and professor in the Department History of the University of the Philippines. Asama Tausug Chinese Filipino, an authority in the issue of Moro history. Director for Mindanao Studies Program at the Center of Integrative and Development Studies of the University of the Philippines. Professor Barbara Watson Andaya, historian, National University of Singapore, former president of the American Association of Asian Studies, PhD at Cornell University and a specialization in Southeast Asian history. Dr. Julius Bautista, historian, Asia Research Institute, University of Singapore, cultural historian and anthropologist, PhD in Southeast Asia Studies from the Center of Asian Societies and Histories at the Australian National University. Dr. Margarita de los Reyes Cuanco, Master in Philippine History at University of Santo Tomas, Moro Studies 20 years. Doctorate in Philippine History at University of Santo Tomas. Author of the book Chris of Valor in 1993. Researched the history of Sama in Sulu Archipelago. Halman Abubakar, a Tausug descendants from Hulu Sulu. Exponent of the martial art of Silat. Silat is historic and significant on Tausug-bladed weapons. A city councilor in Holo. Shared the sentiments of his people by presenting the characterization of Western colony and Filipino historiography as pirates. Three different Muslim tribes who challenged Spanish authority throughout its occupancy and reign during the 17th century orators of the Seleuci. It was Samal Balangingi, raiding tribe. They occupied the chain of the islands between Basilan and Sulu Island. Samal Balangingi, one of the Sama communities that originally inhabited the Tungkil Island group. They were relocated to Zamboanga Peninsula coast and islands as a result of the 1848 military campaign. Ilianons or Iranun, very important in the piracy history, known as fierce in the marine force in the Sultanate. They were nothing but barbaric for the Western colonists. They were portrayed as merciless in the documentary inhabited the Hana Bay area in southwestern Mindanao, whose language is intelligible with Maranao. They were fierce marine force of the Sultanate of Sulu. Tausug, people of the current or Tausug, constituted the people of the Sultanate of Sulu or Lupasug and speak the Tausug language that is related to the BATCH-1 dialect.
Good day everyone, especially to you sir. Today, we are talking about the background history of Emilio Jacinto. But first, let me introduce myself. My name is Hanimi C. Napaw, BSED-1, BATCH-1, Major and Filipino. Emilio Jacinto was born on December 15, 1875. His father was Marciano Jacinto, according to Zaidi, was a bookkeeper, but according to El de los Santos, was a merchant. His mother, Josefa Dizon, was a manghilot or midwife. He studied in the private school in Maestra Ferrer and the latter, and private school of Jose Dizon. He was enrolled by his uncle in Colegio de San Juan de Lutran by his bachelor degree and the latter transferred to the University of Santo Tomas to study law. He used the pen names Pinkian, Dimasilaw, and Elyong. He joined in Katipunan in 1894, was the youngest member and 19 years old. He was the fiscal, secretary, editor, and later general of Katipunan. Jacinto was proclaimed Generalissimo of the North. Punong Hukbo Silagaan became the advisor of the Supremo and the furnished Bonifacio with weapons, money, printing materials, and musical composition. He was also the editor of newspaper Kalayaan. He died of malaria on April 16, 1899 at 23 years old.
Good morning, everyone. I am Crizel Buhian, BSED Filipino 1. Today, I am going to share to you my report about the Section 3 of Kartilya ng Katipunan and its historical background. Andres Bonifacio long wanted to have a codified document listing of duties and responsibilities of every member of the Katipunan. Incidentally, as Bonifacio was drafting the said document, Emilio Jacinto was writing one as well. By the time that Bonifacio was about to consult Jacinto for his comments about his draft, The latter presented his work to the Supremo. After seeing the draft of Cartilla ng Katipunan by Emilio Jacinto, Bonifacio was impressed of Jacinto's style of writing and decided to adopt the Cartilla as the guidebook for the rules and regulations of the Katipunan. Aside from the maltreatment experienced by the Filipinos from the Spaniards, the following are the factors that were influential in forming the Katipunan and that of the Cartilla.
So now, let's proceed to section 4, the works of Lona Marsolo. Juan Lona, born of October 23, 1857 in Badok, Ilocos Norte. Juan Lona was third among the 7 children of Joaquin Luna de San Pedro y Posadas from Zambales and Laureana Navecho y Ancheta from La Union. Juan Lona married Maria de la Paz Pardo de Tavera and had 2 children. Juan Lona, he was granted the title of licentiate pilot for high seas after passing the government examination for sailors. He was also a member of Hong Kong Revolutionary Committee or Hong Kong Wanta that tried to convince Emilio Aguinaldo, his exile in Hong Kong, to return to the Philippines and take a part in the armed rebellion against the Spaniards. Many people, middle-class families, had to chance study not only in the Philippines but also in Europe as well, allowing them to expose to new ideas and ideologies. It was during this time that Juan Lona, famous for his artistic works, his family moved to Manila when he was 5 years old. Here was where he started to sharpen his skills in art and earned a Bachelor of Art from the Ateneo Municipal de Manila. During his life, his home country was colonized by Spain. He continued his studies to Philippine Merchant Marine Academy and to the Academy of Fine Arts, while took during lessons from Lorenzo Guerrero, who persuaded him to pursue art. Luna agreed and lived in Europe with his brother Manuel, who pursued music studies. Luna was not satisfied with the teaching style, hence he decided to start working with his friend Alejo Vera, who later brought him to Rome. It was in Rome that Luna was introduced to Renaissance movements. In 1878, his artistic talent came to the surface with the opening of the first national demonstration of fine arts in Madrid. Having this as a starting point, he continues to produce greater painting. Juan Luna's first major award was that of Cleopatra, a painting of neoclassicism appearance, which earned a second-class medal at Spain's National Fine Arts Exhibition of 1881. He gained recognition as he won this award. He brought the winning painting of Sparlarium to Madrid in the same year as the Filipino and Spanish nobles made an event to celebrate his victory. He moved to Paris in 1885 and returned to Spain in 1887, bearing the Battle of Lepanto and surrender of Granada to Spain's 1887 National Fine Arts Exhibition. Both won the exhibitions. On the other side, he expressed his longings of peace, especially between the Philippines and Spain, by making several Hispana y Filipinas paintings depicting the friendship of a Spanish woman guiding a Filipina woman to climb a stair. When Luna returned to Philippines in 1894, he was arrested by Spanish authorities for being involved in a rebel army. He went back to Spain in July 1897 and returned to Manila in November 1898, where he spent his last year being a diplomat for the Philippines Revolutionary Government at the Treaty of Paris.
So for now, I'm going to tackle about the works of Amorsolo. Fernando Cueto Amorsolo, 1892 to 1972. Fernando Amorsolo was born in Cali, Heran, popularly known today as Pedro Hill, in Paco, Manila, on May 20, 1892. He studied at the Art School of the Liceo de Manila
and at the University of the Philippines School of Fine Arts. He worked as shopsman for the Bureau of Public Works, as a chef artist at the Public Commercial Company, and as a part-time instructor in the University of the Philippines. Amorsolo painted and sketched more than 10,000 pieces over his lifetime using natural and backlighting techniques, which gave him numerous awards and recognitions. The two of Amorsolo's award-winning works are the Leyendo el Periodico, which won second place in the Bazaar Escolta in 1908, and the second one, The Afternoon Meal of Rice Workers, which won first prize at the New York World's Fair in 1939.
Emilio Aguinaldo Fami was a Filipino revolutionary, politician, and military leader who is officially recognized as the first and the youngest president of the Philippines and the first president of a constitutional republic in Asia. Emilio Fami Aguinaldo Sr. was born on March 22, 1869 in Kawit, Cavite. The work of Emilio Aguinaldo, which is the Mga Gunita ng Himagsikan, is considered as relevant to the grand narrative of the Philippine history since it does not only contain memoirs of Emilio Aguinaldo but also contains historical information about our history such as information about Filipino ancestors. Similarly, it shows how the people of our country had passionately fought back against the Spaniard in order to gain our freedom. The document, Mga Gunita ng Himagsikan, would also provide the people an idea what is the importance of knowing all the things that happened in the Gunitang Himagsikan. It is an attempt of Emilio Aguinaldo to wash his hands on the tragic death of Andres Bonifacio. These are the revolutionary and political career.
So my topic is all about the Act of Declaration of Philippine Independence, Ambrosio Ryanzares Bautista. This section focuses on the Act of the Declaration of Philippine Independence, authored by Ambrosio Ryanzares Bautista. It also mentions the different important aspects of the actual declaration, such as the national anthem and the waving of the national flag. Ambrosio Ryanzares Bautista, or also known as Don Busyong, was born on December 17, 1830 in Binyan, Laguna. And his mother's name is Silvestra Altamera, and his father's name is Gregorio Enriquez Bautista. He studied law at the University of Santo Tomas and earned his degree in 1865 at 35 years old. Bautista solicited funds to finance the campaign for reforms in the Philippines and became a member of the La Liga Filipina, Cuerpo de Compromisarios, and La Propaganda. He was arrested and imprisoned at Fort Santiago by the Spaniards as he was suspected of being involved in the Philippine Revolution, but managed to defend himself and was eventually released. In 1898, he became the first advisor of President Emilio Aguinaldo. Bautista also advised Aguinaldo to formally establish the dictatorial government to be administered by decrees promulgated under my sole responsibility. And Aguinaldo was convinced that a dictatorial form of government was efficient than a republic government in a time of crisis. He also asked Ambrosio
Ryanzares Bautista, a lawyer of good standing, to prepare the machinery for the establishment of a dictatorial government.
And, on the contrary to popular belief, the one who waved the Philippine flag before the jubilant crowd during the proclamation of Philippine independence in Cavite was Bautista and not Aguinaldo. Bautista was elected on July 14, 1899 as President of the Philippines in the Revolutionary Congress in Tarlac, and was later appointed Judge of the Court of First Instance of Pangasinan. Bautista died on December 4, 1903, at the age of 72, from a fatal fall from a horse-drawn carriage. In 1896, the Philippine Revolution began. Eventually, the Spanish signed an agreement with the revolutionaries. Emilio Aguinaldo went into exile in Hong Kong at the outbreak of the Spanish-American War. In April 1898, the Spanish-American War broke out as a result of U.S. intervention in the Cuban War of Independence. The U.S. attacked Spain's Pacific possession, which led to its involvement in the Philippine Revolution. Commodore George Dewey sailed from Hong Kong to Manila Bay aboard the USS Olympia and led the Asiatic Squadron of the U.S. Navy. In May 1, 1898, the United States defeated the Spanish in the Battle of Manila Bay. The Battle of Manila Bay ensued. Independence was proclaimed on June 12, 1898, between 4 and 5 in the afternoon, in Cavite, at the ancestral home of General Emilio Aguinaldo. Emilio Aguinaldo decided to return to the Philippines from Hong Kong, bringing with him the first Philippine flag sewn by Marcela Agoncillo, Lorenza Agoncillo, and Delfina Herbosa, and the performance of the Marcha Filipina Magdalo as the national anthem, now known as Upang Hinirang, which was composed by Julian Felipe and played by the San Francisco de Malabon Marching Band, with lyrics by Jose Palma from his poem Filipinas. At the same time, Ambrosio Bautista read the Act of Declaration of Philippine Independence in Spanish. The United States of America, however, never recognized this declaration. The declaration was signed by 98 people, among them an American Army officer who witnessed the proclamation who attended the proceedings, Sir L. M. Johnson, a colonel of artillery. The declaration was not recognized by the U.S. nor Spain, and Spain later sold the Philippines to the United States. In the 1898 Treaty of Paris ended the Spanish-American War. Philippine-American War, the Philippine Revolutionary Government did not recognize the treaty or American sovereignty, and subsequently fought and lost a conflict with the United States, and ended when Emilio Aguinaldo was captured by U.S. forces and issued a statement acknowledging and accepting the sovereignty of the United States over the Philippines. Following World War II, the U.S. granted independence to the Philippines on July 4, 1946 via the Treaty of Manila. In 1964, President Diosdado Macapagal signed into law Republic Act No. 4166, designating June 12 as the country's Independence Day.
Hello guys, good day. Before we start to the lesson that you given to me, I would like to introduce myself. My name is Raymond Tigaisan, BATCH-1, Phil 101, Major and Filipino. So, Section 7, Philippine Cartoons, Political Caricatures of the American Era. When we say political cartoons and caricature, an art form which veered away from the classical art by exaggerating human features and poking fun its subject. Part of the print media as a form of social and political commentary targets persons' power and authority. So, these cartoons became an effective tool of publicizing opinions through heavy use of symbolism, which is different from a verbose written editorial and opinion pieces. Alfred McCoy, together with Alfredo Roses, compiled political cartoons published in newspaper, dailies, and periodicals in aforementioned time period. So during the American era, political cartoons gained popularity as a form of expression. Many artists made use of cartoons as political commentaries to expose the ills of American colonial government. So Alfred McCoy, problems and issues of American colonialism manifested in political cartoons. So together with Alfred Roses, an artist, they compiled many political cartoons by Filipino artists depicting the Philippines during American rule. Mr. Alfred McCoy was born on June 8, 1945 in Massachusetts, USA. He earned his BA in European Studies from Columbia College in 1968. He finished his MA in Asian Studies at the University of California in Berkeley in 1969 and his PhD in Southeast Asian History at the Yale University in 1977. He studied Philippine political caricatures to understand the social and political context of the Philippines during the American period and later on worked with Alfredo Roses. Though McCoy did not create any political caricatures, his interest in them urged him to compile such caricatures from various sources to produce a single collection.
Hi everyone, I am here right now to discuss my report in Section 8, Filipino Grievances Against Governor Wood. This section focuses on the grievances of Filipinos against the governance of Governor Wood. The discontent of the Filipinos under the rule of Governor Wood led to the cabinet crisis of 1923. This section also highlights how these grievances reflected the nature of the American colonial government. Gregorio F. Side, born on May 25, 1907, died on October 31, 1986, was a Filipino historian, author, and politician from the town of Pagsanhan, Laguna in the Philippines. A multi-awarded author, Zaid wrote 67 books and more than 500 articles about history. He is known as the Dean of Filipino historiographers. He was one of the founders of the International Association of Historians of Asia and president of the Philippine Historical Association for 3 terms. As a politician, he served as the mayor of his hometown of Pagsanhan from 1971 to 1975. General Leonard Wood, born in Winchester, New Hampshire, Wood became an army sergeant after earning a Doctor of Medicine degree from Harvard Medical School. He received the Medal of Honor for his role in the Apache Wars and became the personal physicians to the President of the United States.
Background of the author.
Maria Corazon Sumulong Cuangco, born on January 25, 1933 in Paniqui, Tarlac. His mother is Demetria Metring Sumulong, her father Jose Chico Cuangco. She attended law school at Far Eastern University. On February 25, 1986, she became the first female president of the Philippines and served until 1992. Maria Corazon Cory Sumulong Cuangco, popularly known as Cory Aquino. February 25, 1986, she became President of the Philippines because of 1986 EDSA Revolution, the non-violent revolution that ousted President Ferdinand Marcos. She was the wife of assassinated opposition figurehead during the martial law era, Benigno Ninoy Aquino Jr. She served as the 11th President of the Philippines and named by the Time magazine as a Woman of the Year in 1986. In 1999, she was chosen by Time magazine as one of the 28 most influential Asians of the 20th century. Prior to become the president, she had not held any elected office. She died on August 1, 2009 due to colorectal cancer.